There you go. So, all right. Well, I know I appreciate all your time, so we'll get started. I'm starting the recording, and you can all see my screen, correct? Why CFOs and BIM managers have chosen the cloud, correct?
Yeah. And what
All
we're
right.
going to do is, because we're in a conference room, we're going to hit mute here, and then we'll just unmute with questions or comments.
That's fine. And this is a small enough group. You don't have to wait till the end. Just to give you everyone a little background, I met trying out at AU in Las Vegas in what was it, November, just before Thanksgiving. And we got talking and some of the challenges of the IBI group, and we talked in December, and we said, hey, why don't we set up a meeting where with my extended team, and you can give a kind of a presentation, an overview of your services. I said, I have a perfect presentation. We're actually giving this live uh, to various clients, as well as lunch and learns kind of thing. And I said this would be a perfect overview presentation. Why CFOs and BIM managers have chosen the cloud, and it's exactly some of the reasons you are facing. So today, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give some quick introductions. You've introduced yourselves, but I'll introduce me and then Michael and the company. And then, everybody throws around the term cloud. I'm going to define, what the heck am I talking about? And then we'll go into a little bit of why a CFO wants a cloud. Then we'll talk about why a BIM manager wants a cloud. They're a little different perspective. And then I'll kind of the real meat of this presentation is kind of our client case studies. You'll see small companies, large design firms, people in between, and what problems or challenges they had, and then how they used various cloud services to solve those problems. Sound good?
Awesome.
All right, and so let's, and like I said, if you want to just chime in, go off mute, and just interrupt me if you have questions. My name's Chris France. I'm currently the regional president of Advanced 2000. My region had been the Southeast. I used to live in the Charlotte, North Carolina for 20 some years. I'm now living up just outside of New York City, in upstate New York. For family reasons, I said, hey, I can work in the I work in the cloud. I can live anywhere. We're up here taking care of my wife's aging parents, so we're up here for a few years. And but I'm an IT guy. I've spent 11 years, 20 plus years in IT, and it's actually approaching 30. 11 years as a CIO. I was actually the CIO for a large design firm in North Carolina. I'm not an architect. I'm not an engineer. I'm an IT guy. I've worked for IBM, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Little was where I was the CIO. I've written several articles. If you Googled me, you'll see BIM in the cloud. I think I started this firestorm back in 2010. I've got a couple contributing authors to AEC Bytes and Mastering Revit Architecture, the book. And I speak all the time. When I'm not being a quote-unquote cloud CIO, I speak and work with clients. And you can see my background's computer science. I'm a Buckeye. I went to Ohio State, and I live right outside of New York City. Michael, you want to give a quick intro of yourself?
Sure. My name is Michael Bautier. I'm a solutions architect with Advanced 2000. I've been in IT 20 years now exactly, started in 98. Mostly working in the financial sector, but I've worked for several managed services companies, and my sort of expertise is the infrastructure, automation, and cloud computing. So.
Excellent, thank you. And just a little bit about the company, who you're talking to. We serve many industries, and today we're talking about the AEC industry, architects, engineers, and construction. But we do, healthcare, doctors' offices, hospitals and so forth, education, a lot of K through 12 and higher ed, state and local government. We're doing some federal work, manufacturing, and of course the professional services, law, insurance, CPAs. And these are industries that we've actually developed some industry knowledge in. But any business that has a computer needs, IT needs, they'll come to us for their help, no matter what industry. Some of our technology and that we actually own 2 data centers in Buffalo, New York. They're about 20 miles apart from each other, about 100,000 square feet total. We don't farm that out. We don't rent space and rack space or anything like that. So we own our own real estate, fiber. We've been in business, 25 years and counting. We started as a PC builder, believe it or not, building these PCs that when they first came out 25 years ago, they were very expensive. And so we started putting together, PCs for clients, and it kind of grew from there. They say, hey, can you can you build me a server, or can you provide a server? How about a phone system? You know, of course, then it was all on site, but now we still have just as many clients that we sell and support services to on site in their office, as well as in our data centers in the cloud. You see, we're a CLEC, competitive local exchange carrier. We're basically a phone company in the Buffalo area, because we have so much telecom needs to be able to bring clients to our data centers in a cost-effective way. Full service IT engineering firm. The biggest people ask us, well, what's the difference between you guys and Amazon and Microsoft? I said, if you ever logged into one of their portals, you really need to be an IT person to consume some of those cloud services. Not the case with us. We come with the IT department if you need it. And so if you have your IT and you guys can do things, then fine, but we're a full service. So a lot of our principals, small design firms, even large design firms, they'll come to us and say, hey, I need 200 people set up. These are my servers. I need email, phones, and we handle it all. We're a privately held company. We're accountable only to you, our clients. We've got 9 offices, 200 plus people, and this is actually an old number. We're probably about 15,000 VDIs that we're managing now across all of our customers and all of our industry base. We have a 24/7/365 NOC. We're working around the clock. There's always a deadline somewhere, and we're here to support you. All right. Any questions on the company or who we are? I'll get into some of this. Okay. Sometimes I get on the roll and I talk too fast, so just slow me down if you have questions. All right. So what cloud are we talking about here? You hear Microsoft's got a cloud and Amazon's got a cloud, Salesforce's got a cloud, Autodesk has a cloud. What are we talking about? Well, a cloud, and we're talking about a private data center, a local area network where all your BIM, your virtual servers, your virtual desktops are all in the same data center. So I tell people, if you're going to cloud an application, if you like the cloud so much, why don't you cloud it? Why don't you do everything? Even the people, phones, connectivity, people, want to be able to talk on projects or chat or whatever. So we actually build a virtual office, a virtual business in our data centers. And cloud is just a marketing term. Okay, some of our clients that are government or have very secure requirements, high security requirements. They say to me, I can't run in the cloud. It's not secure enough. And I said to them, well, can you run in a private data center other than a government data center? And they said, oh, sure. I said, well, you're actually running in a private data center. I said, because some of our clients, they want to buy a cloud, and we have a cloud. Some of our clients want to buy a private data center. We have a private data center, but that's what it is. It's a data center that's private. Your stuff's in a cordoned off area, and it's all available to you. So that's what we're talking about today, private cloud. Now, I'm going to explain this, and I'm going to just go real quick live into the VDIs just to show you kind of what it looks like. But there's really 2 main components from the end user perspective. Okay, there's the end user computing device, whether it's a laptop, a tablet, a thin client. I'll kind of explain some of that. I'm actually on a Lenovo laptop right now running Ubuntu Linux. All right, it could be just about any client, tablet, Android, whatever. You can bring your own device, whatever. You could have a favorite device at the office and a different one at home. You can get into it, whatever. And then you have the VMware View client. There's a lot of remote type desktop technologies out there. We've pretty much run them all: Microsoft, Citrix, VMware, and we're constantly looking for things that are better, faster, cheaper. Right now, today, VMware is the king. In our opinion, the support, the stability, the performance, VMware is what we're deploying our clients on. And I'm just going to kind of show you that real quick. So here's my Linux toolbar. I like to be different. I put things over on the left, not the bottom. But this is the VMware View Horizon client. It used to be called VMware View. Now it's VMware Horizon. So I think it's changed in version 6. But let's see if everything goes well on the live demo. So I click this, and here you can have your access server. So this is my server that I use to log into my Advanced 2000 cloud desktop. So I use that. And this is our demo environment, which is where I'm going to log in here. And this is something that you're able to, if you like what you hear after today and you want to demo this yourself, we can get you a couple free demo accounts, and you can actually collaborate in the cloud on some high-performance Revit desktops. And I can actually, I don't have them here, but if I've got other clients that have different clouds, I can have, you know, all these different client clouds that I can log into if they give me access. So however many different clouds you want to log into. So I click on the demo cloud, which is where I'm going. And I log
Chris, just so you're aware, through the Zoom here, we're only seeing a black box of what you're clicking there.
All right, maybe my share isn't working.
It might be, this might not allow live because it's a live thing. It might not, sometimes during these
okay.
shares, it doesn't allow it.
All right, well, if you can't see this, and we'll see if it shows up on the, so same thing? You can't see that?
So we see you typing, we see it authenticating. Then it goes black.
Okay.
So because you're remoting into another machine there, I assume?
No. So yeah. So the performance. Don't take this. Let me just tell me if you can see the Revit that comes up on the screen.
Yes, we can see Revit.
All right. So what I did, I'm on my laptop, and I remoted into this high performance Revit workstation that's in our data center in Buffalo. Now, you're not gonna, don't take this this presentation over Zoom as the performance, because I'm actually running a screen scrape through Zoom. So when you're actually logged into it live, it spins like it's sitting on your desk in front of you. I don't know what that spin looks like to you. That orbiting.
No, that's understood. Always do a go-to live session, or any live sessions like this. It doesn't go as smooth.
Yeah. So there's Revit. So this is running on a high performance. So I can't run Revit on my local computer. It's a low-end cheap laptop, but I can run it on this. And my home office network, I have a 100 meg down internet connection and 10 meg up. But look at here, I got. Out of the data center. Now, this of course, this all depends on what the client needs. It varies depending on their requirements. But I've got my internet wide open on this VDI going out of Buffalo. So if I want to surf for my VDI, it's gonna have, you know, very high bandwidth. I think it was like 200, 300 megs. So let's see if it goes here. But I'll let that. You got the get the idea here. You can see it running. Ooh, it's up to 450, 460.
Yep.
All right, so you see that now. So here's the, you know, I said we're setting up a local area network. So this is my file explorer of the VDI, and here I just have local drives. But this is where I would put the file server, your F drive or P drive or whatever you use. It could be identically to what you have in your office, and everybody works. So it's the entire environment in one location. We good? I will go back to the. Put that down. I'm gonna go back to the presentation. So that's kind of what it looks like. Now, the beauty of this is now you're talking about collaboration between various offices. You got a branch office, your main office, maybe your headquarters. It's very difficult moving all this data, these Revit models all around and staying in sync and downloading and uploading. It's just crazy. Well, if everything is virtually in one location, you're not moving anything. So my workstation, my virtual workstation is sitting right next to my models in the server. Everybody's working like they're sitting in the same office. Saves essential or instantaneous. And just because you can work between multiple offices, if you're getting into it remotely, well, why can't your consultants or your owners get into the same information in a secure fashion? So this is what I would say this is the #1 reason that firms are adopting our project cloud, is because they can have multiple firms working together on a secure file system. And some of our clients, and I'll talk about them in the case studies, even have their data encrypted. It's so high security, but they're all working, so they don't have to physically relocate. They can virtually relocate. Sounds good? And this is a little bit more detail on how a BIM project cloud would work. Our clients fall in 2 categories. There's the project cloud. They're saying, hey, I've got 30 people, 50 people, whatever, that need to work together on this project. And then we'll stand up everything they need in the data centers. So the the engineers, maybe the structural, the MEP guys, these are all different firms, the architects. They're all using their own licenses. It's, bring your own license, so you don't have to pay for Revit for your consultants. Everybody can kind of, bring their own license to the cloud. You create a central repository and you can lock it down. So the architects could be their directories. They'll have read-write access for their models, but then the engineers can only read only the architect's model. So the engineers can't change the architects, and then vice versa. So you can keep this very secure. Compare that to, say, A360 or whatever, which is a high trust environment. Everybody gets in and can change everything. You can lock this thing down as tight as you want to with Microsoft permissions. And we've got network license managers. Some of our clients have their license manager in our data centers. Others have it outside. It just doesn't matter as long as we set up a connection where the cloud desktops can see it. And then we set up, if they need to print, we set up print servers in the cloud, and they just zip it down to their local plotters. Everything works like they're sitting in the same office. I'll say briefly what we do for security. That's what people ask me. Well, how secure are you? And I said, well, we spend tens of millions of dollars on our data centers and security. And for most firms, we're way more. We have, like I said, we own our facilities, biometric controls. We have multiple types of carrier grade switches and VLANs and all that good stuff. We even do some our own. We have what I would call on staff, white hat hackers that will do penetration tests and try to break our stuff and find out where the vulnerabilities are. So we're constantly, watching for ransomware, and we've got the NOC 24/7 monitoring. So we do a lot with security. We've also been part of the Department of Homeland Security here in the U.S. They realized it was a grant program that came out a few years ago. It's just kind of under the radar, so most people haven't heard of this. They realized that most of the breaches, most of the hacks, don't come with the big boys, the Bank of Americas and the Microsofts. It's their suppliers. It's the small companies that are feeding up to these guys. And since we have a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, we were a good candidate to be in this grant program. So the Homeland Security, the FBI, they all descended on us. They helped us. And so we're continuing to improve our security. So and we don't publish this obviously on the internet, but our clients, I would say the most extensive security that we had was SAIC. They had a 26-page security questionnaire. They audited us. They came in and we passed. So why does a CFO want a cloud? Well, CFO is concerned with growth. The cloud scales very quickly. You only have to pay for what you need. You don't have to overspend. They compare about their competitive advantages. How can I get more IT for less money? Can I do more things? And of course, they're looking at mergers, either divesting businesses, acquiring businesses. Cloud migrations are quick. I mean, we've had some of our clients that they're in the cloud. They bought a 50-person firm. We moved them in over a weekend, and able to quickly integrate, because a lot of the stuff is pre-built, so we can deploy it faster. Staff retention, flexibility. I'm going to talk about this in one of our case studies. But you don't have to commute into New York City or into downtown Toronto every day unless you're required to. You could work from wherever you're at and be very productive, and of course profit. Whenever I can, increase my revenue and decrease my costs, the CFOs are happy. What does a BIM manager care about? Well, they're focused more on the projects and project delivery. And the one of the biggest benefits they see is the cloud eliminates project lag. What I mean by that is, at the end of the week on Friday, everybody's got to upload all of their models from wherever they're at, inside the company, outside the company, and then on Monday morning, everybody's got to re-download them and then link them all together. And that's just the way people work. Believe it or not, some of our clients were still sending CDs because the data was so large, between their offices. And the cloud eliminates all that because you're not moving data anymore. Client satisfaction increases the certainty of outcomes. Clients can see it in real time. I'll talk about this in one of our case studies. They actually invited the owner of a hospital group and the city of Charlotte to the cloud so they can see the design in real time, what they wanted them to see. Collaboration, location no longer matters. You can be inside or outside in your firm projects. You can get the best talent no matter where they're at and bring them into your project. If you've got one office, say in the West Coast, and they might be light on work and the East Coast is slammed, you don't have to hire people in the East and let go in the West. You can have the West Coast work with the East. It's just a better way to work. And design mobility. it's rare that everybody comes into their office and works from 8 to 6 every day without leaving. They're at the job site, they're traveling, they're at the client offices. They want to work from their lake house, their beach house, whatever. They want to have access to their designs, and they can do it with the cloud. And I think I got one more slide, and then we'll get into some of these case studies. So this is just kind of some of how people say, well, how much does this cost? And well, the real world scenarios are that the cost. Every firm does an ROI, and one of our clients, A&F Architects, they did this, and they're actually worked on a case study with us, and they share they're willing to share their spreadsheet. But we're basically turning all of your capital expenses, buying servers and PCs and all this high-end equipment, and turning it into an operational expense. So we buy all this stuff, Advanced 2000, and we put it in the data center, and we let you use it on a service monthly rental type basis, as well as the operations and the data storage and opening a branch office. It all adds up. So what A&F did on their ROI, they took all their current IT spend, what they're spending on all their assets and software, and then they took the same capabilities and they said, well, what would this look like if we were all in the cloud? And they realized that after in year one, the costs were about the same. And I said, Joe, as the principal, I said, Joe, but what you really got to do is you got to kind of extend this out a few years, like 3 to 5 years, and get a couple equipment refreshes. And I said, because you don't have to buy any more high-end PCs. You don't have to buy any more server replacements. And you'll see by the end of that 5 years, they were saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the technologies. So that's what we're doing with the variable costs. We're eliminating those variable costs. So you have a set price every month. You know what you can budget for, and we provide the best technologies. You get the desktop performance, the collaboration, the software version control, and the help desk. All right, now the case studies. Any questions? I'll pause here before I get into the case studies.
No, I think we're good here.
Okay. All right. Now these are our actual clients and how they're using our services. And I'm sure you might see your company in some of these. So PGAL, they're headquartered in Houston, Texas. They've been a client since 2013. They're about 200 people, 9 locations. We've put in point-to-point circuits and some public internet to all their offices. The services that they're using in the cloud are centralized storage, cloud desktops, backup, and help desk. And so some of the problems that they were having that we solved was data was in multiple locations. I mean, they had 9 offices and counting. Data's all over the place. They're trying to keep it in sync. Their hardware refresh cycle, they were constantly having to buy new PCs and servers. Collaboration was a nightmare, both with in-house offices and with their partners. They were having to move data, and it just wasn't working. They wanted to be able to work from home, which is one of their company benefits and culture. So I'm gonna kind of walk through this diagram in a little more detail because you're going to see it's very similar with these other clients. So up here in the upper right-hand corner is the Advanced 2000 data center, and we have your virtual desktops, your servers, your firewalls, switches, everything that you need to run that project. It doesn't have to be just Autodesk. It could be Bentley. It could be, Dassault, CATIA, Graphisoft, Adobe. It doesn't matter. Whatever you need to run your project. Could be Nuforma if that's what you use for your project tracking, or some kind of a chat messenger. You can put it all. Whatever your design team wants to use, we could run. And I tell people, if it'll run on your computers, it will run on our computers. And once we set up their environment, basically their design studio, then it's just a function of getting all their offices to connect in. So now their Boston office was a small office. We were able to connect them with over 5 megs of internet bandwidth over a VPN. And so they would hit the public internet and come in to over our public internet into the data center. These other offices, Alexandria, Houston, so forth, we size those based on the traffic needs as well as the VDIs that are in use in each of those offices. So you can tell by the bandwidth of various sizes. So Houston's the largest; they're on a 100 meg circuit, and all that is. So going forward, a lot of our firms, they're getting rid of a lot of their local stuff, and they're running it out of the data center. So they have the switch, they have maybe a lower end PC or a tablet, something that they can go mobile with now, and they can log in and work. So Las Vegas, Austin, Houston, and Boston, they can have people from all those offices working like they were sitting in the same room, and that's what they do. And then they've got a support team behind them 24/7. And here in the upper left, If you need to go at home, job site, whatever, you've got to have some kind of a tablet or a Surface or laptop or whatever, and you can move around and get in. I was on the Las Vegas show floor. I think when I was running live from there. It doesn't matter, and I'm here in closer to New York City, and I'm running out of Buffalo. The second case study is A&F Architects. I mentioned them. They've been since 2012. They're a small firm, one location. We put in a point-to-point fiber circuit. They've also got public internet for redundancy. They're using centralized storage, cloud desktops, email, their accounting server. They want to put archive server backup. So this is what I would call and even hosted phones. They're using that server. This is what I would call an all-in client. So they really didn't have a collaboration issue because they were all sitting in Nashville or Memphis, and they're in one office. But they said, we have a hard time managing all of our IT. We're a small company. We want to run everything. And so they were looking at probably, over $100,000 refresh of all their hardware, their PCs and their phone systems and their servers. They wanted to be able to collaborate with their partners in the future, even though they didn't have one need at the time. They wanted to move to the MS Office versions, the latest, and now they're on Office 365 that we're managing for them. Their phone system was getting ready to die, so we replaced all that with our hosted cloud phone system. Help desk. Now they did have an IT guy in-house, and he was a little nervous that his job was in jeopardy, and their principals say, hey, no worries, we still have a place for you. You can work projects, you can do revenue, and you get to manage the whole cloud. So he's learning things that he's was never able to learn as part of a 30-person company. They added the work from home as a company benefit. They can people can work from wherever, and they love it. I think it was A&F. I've had some clients, the staff tell me that if my employer ever gets rid of the cloud, I'm going to quit because that's how much I love it. I said, okay, well, you tell them that. And this is A&F's infrastructure. It looks very similar to what I just showed you with PJL. The data center and everything they need. In this case, you got the hosted PBX, whatever you need. They've got the 30 meg point-to-point fiber. And I think they started at about 30 people. They're up around 45 people, so they're hiring very easy. They just call us, say, hey, send me a new laptop or a new thin client. See, they've got PCs and Macs, and they've got 13 thin clients. And what a thin client is, if you've ever seen like an old videotape, it's about that size, and it's like a little brick, and it's a solid state device, and all you do is plug in a mouse, keyboard, and a network cable and a monitor, and all it does is it launches that remote desktop. So there's nothing running locally. It's a thin client. It's like, I don't know, $400, something like that. And they like that. For the people that don't need the mobility, they just come to the office and work. They put them on thin clients and then the phones. And they got a backup connection. If for some reason, their main circuit goes down, they can run over a backup connection and kind of degrade it until that gets up. And then and now they did have a need for a collaboration partner. It actually Gensler. They were collaborating on a project with Gensler, and while Gensler does have a cloud, it was easier to bring them into our cloud than A&F into Gensler's cloud. We have all the security and everything they need, and Gensler was set up to run Gensler and their cloud. Fitzpatrick. This is a small firm. I'm going to be getting to some large firms like you all. They're 8, now 11, same thing. They're an all-in, hey, you guys can be my IT department, set up a virtual business, centralize my storage, cloud desktops, I'm going to move my archive server into my local office, backups, and same thing. They were dealing with an aging infrastructure and phone systems and all that. And I'm going to combine these. The network diagrams for these two are the identical. So 1,200 Architects, they're another small firm, except they didn't have an aging infrastructure problem because they were a new company. They were a startup. They had no infrastructure. And Chris Cobb, the principal here, he left his employer, wanted to go off on his own, created his own business, and was looking at having to raid his 401k to set up his new business. And so he was looking for cloud services so he didn't have to do that. And he found us. And his 401k is intact, and he's got all these services. He's running his entire business: phones, email, Revit, AutoCAD, everything from our cloud. And those two, it's the It's the same. I hear some typing. Maybe you guys can mute whoever's typing. Thank you. And their network diagrams for these small companies are the same. You got the data center. You got a private circuit to that data center. You got the local devices and the public internet if you want to go mobile. And the last, I'm getting close to the end. So these IPD projects, I don't know if you call this in Canada, it's an integrated project delivery. You might have some PPPs going on there.
No, IPD is the same. It's actually become more of a global term now as well.
Okay. And do you actually have the legal entities?
Say that again, sorry?
People form like an LLC or a business, a legal entity to run these projects?
We call them, it's like a corporate, conglomeration of corporation. There's a legal term for that.
Right. So some of these are that case. I think Penn First was a legal entity. The other ones are just a big owner wanting to collaborate with their consultants. So CHS, Carolina Healthcare, they're based in Charlotte, North Carolina. They build hospitals. This is one I mentioned. They have multiple firms working together in one office. I think there was, I don't know, 40 or 50 people from 5 or 6 different firms. They all saw real-time changes. So as soon as anybody made a change, everybody saw it instantly as soon as they synced with Central. And they can get on the phone and start calling if they had some issues. And so the Autodesk licensing challenges, that was early on. Everybody said, well, do I got to pay for this license, or do I, can I use the consultants use their own? Everything's all worked out. It's legal. You just got to make sure you have network licenses. I think that was some of their smaller consultants were running standalone licenses they had to upgrade. This was kind of innovative. Mecklenburg County was the permitting office that was doing this. They wanted to fast track this job, so they invited the city into their cloud and gave them access to only one little directory for the city permitting. They couldn't see anything else. They only could see what they published to that one directory, and they were able to watch the design as it was progressing to get the permit faster. And it worked, and they did. Penn First, this is another big healthcare. I think this is being run out of the Denver area, and some of these people on this are actually running out of the UK. There's some UK team members, so this will our cloud works across the pond there, Nick, and the team works seamlessly together. All the licensing challenges were addressed, as I mentioned, and then the IPD project was delivered. Now this other client, we're under NDA, so I can't really tell you who they are. Maybe when I see you face to face, I might it might slip, but they're about 900 people are in our cloud working. They're managing probably a $15 to $20 billion a year construction budget, coast to coast. They've got people in California and in the East Coast and all points in between. There's about 50 firms right now and counting, all working together. And this 900, that is just their consultants. The owner has about 1,200 people working on this inside their offices on, $10,000 workstations. They said, well, we're not going to get rid of our high-end workstations. And, they got these high-end graphics cards. We have Panzura in place. We'd like to set up a hybrid cloud with you guys. So we'll put a Panzura in your data center, and we'll have the Panzura in ours, and all the data will be in sync, and our consultants can get in and do that. So we don't. They used to fly their consultants to the job sites, put them up for 6 months, give them PCs, and pay for their hotel and food and everything. They don't do that anymore. So they're saving a ton of money, and their projects. They were getting bit by this project lag. Uploading on Friday, downloading on Monday, and relinking. That was causing a delay, and the projects were over. Past due, and so this cloud eliminated all that. It got people working in real time. So in summary, what have we learned? Many things. The cloud is many things to many people, but to us, it's a LAN. It's running your entire project, design studio, or your entire business in our data center, whatever your company needs. And do CFOs and BIM managers want the same thing? No. CFOs are concerned with the bottom line. They both want to do what's best for the company, but BIM managers are responsible for deploying that technology, keeping it running so that the projects can be executed. And so these case studies, they're different, but they're very similar as far as the components that we use to achieve their business goals. And so it's possible because the data center provides all the options that for every need. And so basically that's I think that's all I have. I'll open it to you for questions, and how might we be able to work together?
Just on that last comment, the BIM managers deploy, that was it, like the way you said, so yeah, BIM managers make best use of technology to meet the needs of the CFO. Cool. But it was interesting, you said they deploy and implement, so my question, based on how you described that bullet, in your case study, how have you seen, or I guess, what empowerment have you seen from BIM managers relative to the use of, or the governance over information technology? And the reason I ask that, to put context to the question, in IBI, so I'm the global director of design technology. And under design technology, we have this portfolio or this bucket called design collaboration. And we focus really on BIM-focused collaborative solutions that are either by themselves, so like Autodesk BIM 360, Bentley ProjectWise, things of those nature that we can control and govern, hosted by some other entity, or something like what you're describing would involve for us a strong integration and dialogue with our IT teams, because IT governs our servers, our internet, all of the backbone technicalities that we would depend on in order to access our things. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And so, see if I can answer that. There's a couple ways. So every one of our clients is different. Some people do not have any BIM manager, and they want us to manage that information technology and the models and all that. And we actually do have a BIM manager on staff that we can do that. Others will say, all right, they may not have an IT department, or they don't have enough of an IT department, and they certainly can't do the capabilities that I shared today. So they said, all right, we'll have you provide the plumbing, the IT, the infrastructure, but we'll retain the BIM manager role. And so our BIM manager will manage all this. Now, some of these big projects, you have 5 or 6 BIM managers coming together from different companies that you all got to kind of get on the same page and figure out. I tell people, everybody wants standards as long as it's theirs. Everybody has a different file naming convention and level of detail, so they work that out and they get it. And we work with a lot of these guys as well to give them some of the best practices. Now, other companies, the really large ones, that I mentioned, that one NDA, they've got their own IT group, and they have no intention of outsourcing all their IT to us, but they're going to do projects with us. So a lot of times, the IT group may not have the capabilities to be able to do all this, or they want to work with us. So we'll create a technical team of your IT and our IT, and then go from there. And then some clients will look at us and go, hey, this is a good idea. I'm going to do it myself. I don't need you guys. Michael Baker, that was one of the clients there. I don't know if you've heard of Michael Baker Design, but they went off and built their own cloud. And we said, well, maybe you want to prototype and figure out what you want to do with our cloud first on a small scale, and then you can figure out how you want to roll it out. They said, no, we got this. They came back 2 years later and said, oh man, it was an utter failure. It didn't perform. We spent all this money on the hardware, the infrastructure, and it didn't perform like your guys' stuff does. And so they're back. They're a client now. So it really depends on how you want to do that.
Yeah, because for me, I'm thinking of the feasibility here. Obviously, from a global IBI perspective, we do have governance, we have an IT team, et cetera. But I think you hit the nail there. The potential, for me, the heaviest potential is when we're engaged in P3 projects or IPD, where, we set up these projects and I want to bring the IBI way, and 6 other entities want to bring their own way. And we have seen instances where thousands upon thousands have been spent trying to set up local infrastructure for the project office, and then trying to have portals and VPNs to connect, and why go through all that hassle? So that, for me, that's crazy, but that's where this is resonating. And I'm listening to this thinking, I'm probably not going to walk down to our IT department and say, let's remove you. There may be interest and there may be potential, but for me, it's really the IPD P3 joint
Right.
major frameworks in the UK type thing.
Right. Right. And that's why, you know, when Trang and I were talking, you know, that's why I said I'm gonna personally work with IBI. I'm a CIO. I'm a senior IT guy. I'm not. You just don't have one of our sales guys talking with you. I work with a lot of companies, and I understand the challenges. And that's what I said. You've got some big needs, and I'm here to work with you. So absolutely. So, you know, it's funny. I tell people, they say, well, who's your biggest competition? I said, you know, honestly, in-house IT is our biggest competition. I said, and I used to be in-house IT, so I know where these guys are coming from. But it's like, hey, if there's something better, faster, cheaper, let's figure out a way to work together, you know, because if you know, when I looked at, and that's exactly what I did. I kind of outsourced my job at Little as a CIO. I'm looking at this during the recession and downsizing. And I said, look, we're still in business. I need all these capabilities. We don't have the cash to do all this. Let's get some cloud services so we can get more IT for less money, and they can still manage it, you know? They don't need, you know, we can manage, you know, our cloud comes with an IT department, but if you already have an IT department, we can kind of work together. So, you know, make it win-win. So, yeah. That's typically what kind of I was going to ask you next steps, but I was going to kind of throw out what I typically see for next steps is you say, all right, I want this sounds good. I want more information. I want you to want to test this. So we actually will send out 2 demo accounts. And I'll give you guys, I know you do a lot of design work, so I'll give you some of our high-end VDIs with like 8 gig graphics cards, you know, 32 gigs of RAM VDIs. And we link them together through a common shared folder so that we give you 2 so that you can actually test the collaboration. So you can have somebody in the UK and somebody in Toronto both logged into the respective desktops and work on a Revit file and collaborate, make a change and see it instantly. And you can actually share these demos, but you can, if there's only 2 of them, only 2 people can be logged in at the same time. So you can say, all right, you're testing it on Monday, you can test it on Tuesday, and you can kind of pass it around. And people try it from different devices. They try it on their laptop or PC in the office. They might install it on their iPads or their home computers. They'll test different internet connections, you know, in the office, on a Starbucks or client side or whatever. And they kind of get the idea on how this will work. And then we kind of go through and said, all right, let's put together a budgetary pricing for a small project, you know, 10, 20 people, whatever. And then you kind of see it, and then you know, you try it out and go from there.
You know, I think let's think about that. I think the pricing for a small project should probably maybe give us a concept of that as a next step, because I think that's the important thing. Is that, you know, the hard part with the test is, sure, if we can get, like, I think it would be worth exploring that. And yeah, you know, Nick and I, or Nick and Trang, whomever, and we can get on and do some of those tests. But, you know, really, as I've always found, when we do these tests, yeah, we can validate it only to a certain point. Then it's, you know, it's on project feasibility, and the feasibility would be, it's first, obviously, cost will come into play, and then the feasibility of application for what has to be used.
Sure. Well, what generally will happen, I can certainly, this is Brent talking, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want me to, you know, work with you or Trang, or let's put together some specs, because a lot of times people will say, well, gosh, I don't know, does this user need a 2 gig graphics card, a 4 gig, or an 8 gig? You know, based on what they do. Because in the cloud, you don't have to overspend. If all they're running is Revit, that works fine on a 2 gig graphics card VDI.
Yeah, what we would do is most likely, just because, you know, obviously from a pricing, a guess of pricing, it's guesswork. So we'd probably take our, we'd tell you, like, yeah, these are the base specs of our desktop CAD/BIM computers. This is our gig RAM, this is our graphics card, and this is our processing speed. So we wouldn't want, you know, price equivalent or quasi-equivalent, and then we'd say, let's assume so many people. We could just make a fictitious project based on one of the P3s, like that, you know, both Trang and I have worked on, and we can just see what the cost would be. And then, knowing some of the costs that we've done for the physical infrastructure for some of these, we can start to do a value comparison that I could then bring to our our project management leadership and say, hey, we do have an option here that we could look at. And
Exactly.
I think that's really the path to feasibility. I'm not even too concerned about the 2 testing accounts, to be honest, because it would be good, but at the end of the day, it's really I want to see the feasibility of how this thing prices out, and then if it looks pretty good, yeah, let's move into a test so I can actually go to leadership and say, here's something, and here's an ability to test what it would be like.
Absolutely. All right. Well,
just before
go
you
ahead.
go, sorry.
Yeah.
It's Nick from the UK. I've just got a quick question.
Yeah.
You talked about all the security stuff you've done with Homeland and things
Yes.
of that nature. I'm sure you're aware that the European Union has the General Data Protection Regulation that comes in. Have you heard of that or looked at that? Because that would have potentially an impact on.
Not in detail, but I will say now, if it's and we run into a little bit of this in Canada. If it's like a Canadian government job where the data is required to be in Canada, then we've got to look at some different solutions, because obviously the data is physically going to be in New York.
Yeah, well, there's 2 things. So some certain projects in the UK obviously have to stay within its territories, but
Right.
the general data protection regulations also relate to the ownership of the information and notification to parties that information is available and accessible. And you sometimes need covering statements or other functions. So it would be interesting to look at that as well as a side for the
Absolutely.
so that we can make sure the UK projects are able to use it in the right ones, but also the ones where it's not right, if there's alternate solutions that you could propose.
So I think, that's probably a whole nother conversation to get into some of the detail. 9 times out of the 10, we're going to be able to meet those requirements. There's another, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Some of our aerospace customers are under the ITARS. I don't know if you've heard of that, ITARS. It basically has a security requirement where, the aerospace designs, they don't want it to fall into, foreign countries' hands. So they don't want any foreign nationals working on this IT infrastructure. And so we're having to do that in a few cases. So we do have some foreign nationals working at our company, but we have a process to make sure that those people are not touching those clients that can only have, U.S. citizens. And so we'll have to, look at the specifics on the UK security as well.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I say it's the regulation comes into effect this year, and it's more to do with the ownership of the data and who can own it, who owns it, and who can access it. And it's very complicated.
In that case, you still own it. This is still, you're the owner of the data, and you can determine who accesses it.
Yeah, but just an FYI, Canada does have a very similar restraint as well. And for the most part, when we're subscribing into cloud-based solutions, we actually go to Commonwealth hosting locations prior to the U.S. And part of that is because of your current administration and some of the things they've done. So it's all good, we'll work through that as a globe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I know.
Like I know with our BIM 360 with Autodesk, we do have a couple of server options that we can ping to depending on the nature of the information. But that's something like the fact that and it's good to know that it is New York. So, there are certain projects where we just wouldn't be able to even propose it because it can't cross the border because of,
Well, and we haven't actually had to do this yet. We've priced it for various clients. We said, look, if this data needs to be physically in the UK or in Canada, we can do that. We'll find a data center that meets our standards. We'll get some rack space and we'll duplicate our cloud in that data center and manage it like we would from New York. And it's going to take more work. It's going to cost more. But if that's what we need to do, we'll do it. If it makes sense.
Oh, very cool.
So, and I think that's where it came down to, that all of these international projects, they were okay with the securities we had running out of New York, and they weren't like Canadian government projects or whatever. Like this Pen First I was talking about, that has some people coming in from the UK, and I haven't heard any problems with that. Yeah,
we saw Foster's and Balfour Beatty on there.
Yeah.
So that's and both of those touch similar project kind of typologies to us. So it's quite a good example.
Okay. What else?
Well, I actually have another meeting that I'm hosting, so I'm going to have to jump off. But I think this was great. If you could send us the recording, that would be awesome.
Will do.
Yeah.
And Brent, you want me to follow up with you or Trang to get some pricing put together?
I would use Trang as a focal point, and then she can coordinate it with me, just because I don't want to get stuck in my emails.
Sounds good. All right. Anything else? And we'll wrap.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thanks, folks. Take care.
Bye.
Cheers. Thank you.